Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, before lunch, we're about to go on a tour. And we're going to start in Venice, and then we're going to go around the globe. So let's start right here where we are. And as we all know, that boundary between land and sea is not a simple place in which to exist. And for the ancient city like Venice, celebrating the past while looking to the future involves a complex and delicate approach. Well, joining us to discuss the challenges of the modern-day Venice from the Consortium for the Coordination of Research Activities Concerning the Venice Lagoon, please welcome the Managing Director of CORILA, the very accomplished Pierpaolo Campostrini.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm glad to take this challenge to explain to you 1,500 years of Venice history in 15 minutes, which is not so easy. That's because the title they gave me is to tell you about the maritime history. But where we are now, we are in the Gulf of Venice, as was named the Adriatic Sea in the ancient time. The Adriatic Sea in a small part of the Mediterranean Sea, which is a closed sea. And we are just put at the end of the Po Plain, which is the main plain of Italy. We are close to the Alps. The Olympic Games in Cortina is just 2 hours from here. And the formation of the lagoon has been between this land and sea interaction. It was made only 20,000 years ago. The sea arrived near Ancona, and in the mid of the Adriatic Sea, 200 kilometers from here. And we have the sea level rise due to the deglaciation formed a lot of sediments carried down the sea, get up, and the sediments were from the mountain flew down to the sea, forming these littoral islands of Lido and Pellestrina, and then behind them the lagoon. So today the lagoon is this one. You see, we are just, and I cannot, no, there is not any, there is an indication, maybe, no? Okay. Yes, we can move with this, but is a quite wide lagoon. Is the largest lagoon of the Mediterranean Sea, with 3 inlets which connect the sea with the lagoon. But why build a city in a lagoon? I mean, there are soft soil, scarcity of construction material, no wood, no stones. The accessibility, we are shallow water, so we only with a specific boat can be driven there. There is no potable water. There is difficult use of animal power, lack of land for agriculture and salty soil. But, so impossible place. But they did. And with innovation, with some ideas which became really the way for building a city in an impossible place. The foundation, the consolidation of the soil was done with the wooden piles. The piles were transferred by rivers to the sea, to the lagoon. So they invented and they built here in this large place, low draft hull ships was crafted. They use the urban cistern to take rainwater and use it. And there are many specialized types of boats for carrying the passenger, different things. And in this place, more than 1 ship per day was built. 20,000 people worked in Arsenale during the Middle Age. So it was a foreign workshop before Ford invented the system of chain production. And so the archipelago in which of Venice say that some devoted islands was left for agriculture, selecting the species which were able to grow in the lagoon. Then additional threats came from the sea level rise, the subsidence, the sea storm, the river flooding and sediment transport. So the Venetian, even in the past, was able to adapt to climate change, raising up the pavements of the city, creating the seawalls on the littoral islands, first with wood, then with stones, carried from the other part of the Adriatic Sea. And we made this big intervention for deviation of river mouth when we saw that the lagoon was silting up. But what I would like to say here for you, that Venice is married with the sea, but not from yesterday. It's a long-lasting marriage from the year 1000, when the Doge Pietro Orseolo II started to have this ceremony of marriage to the sea. And it was celebrated every year, also in the modern times. Because during the Republic of Venice time, the relationship between the water and the people was more close than today. Everything happening in and through the water. The city, there was the pedestrian path that we are using today was built in the last 200 years. Most people were going around by boat. And the sea was the main and food source, fishing, and there was a wealth through the sea and with the ships. The trade was conducted with the very far countries. So the sea was the wall which protected the city from enemies. So we decided where in Florence they built a wall around all the medievals, all the city in that moment they were building wall. Venice decided to stay in the water around as wall. Actually, this was made through an adaptation, what we say, a co-evolution of the lagoon with the needs of society. Because in the 14th century, we have this, from the Dolomites, from the Alps, this river were carrying sediment, and the risk was to infill the lagoon with the sediment. And this was taken as a threat. Therefore, as I mentioned before, our ancestors made this big works to divert the river mouth in other position in order to maintain water around Venice. So Venice is a natural place which was was artificial. The existence of the lagoon is only due by man. Venice is a port city. We have not our wealth starting from the port, but the evolution of this port at the beginning was some centuries ago was just in the basin of San Marco, the port. Then it moved in other parts of the city, more north, and also acquiring for having more space from the arsenal where we are now. And only at the end of the 19th century, the port was moved northward, acquiring new spaces in order to enlarge the economic activities of the port. So it was not a static place, but it was a place evolving the city. But with the new century, in the 20th century, the port acquired new places in the land, where the industrial zone, the first industrial zone of Italy, was put there in 1917, and then enlarged during the century. New channels were dredged along the lagoon in order to acquire, having more larger ships to come. Presently, as you may see, the port, the commercial and industrial port is mainly on the land side, but is still connected to Venice, where the other kind of ships can arrive. And but the issue now is, as you know, the sea level rise and the flooding, which Venice is well known in the world for that. because, but it is not a new phenomenon. It's not occurring only now. In the last 2 centuries, this has been measured. You may see the evolution, and in red is the mean sea level, the annual mean sea level, which oscillates every year for meteorological, but the trend is clear. It's rising up. And the number of flooding, as you will see in blue, was starting to explode in the last 50 years, and especially during the year 2000. We have a way to measure the sea level rise corresponding to a reference. Our reference is near San Marco, in front of San Marco, in the entrance of the Canal Grande, Punta della Salute. And that, from that point, we measure the relative sea level, which is due to the global issue of expanding the sea level, expanding the sea for thermal expansion, and the phenomena of the local phenomena like subsidence, which is we have for geological reason, and for the soil is going down slowly. But we added what we call anthropogenic subsidence when we created that industrial zone in Porto Marghera. Between the 50s and the 70s, we take out too much water, and the soil subsides. And this kind of things, unfortunately, cannot be recovered today. So we lost other 15 centimeters almost for that reason. So, and before 5 years ago exactly, the only way to cope with the sea level rise was adapting, was a suffering, I would say. And this is kind of suffering which existed. The city continued to live, even trying to live, but there is a limit. And the limit was achieved in the last 10 years when we had very intense and frequent sea flooding. You can barely cross the road, even if you have the boots. And even more sadly, the cultural heritage of the city is at risk. It's patrimony. This is a picture from Basilica of San Marco Church, and which was made in 1064. And the marble suffered by the salty water intrusion. The bricks was disgregating of this. The plasters where the mosaics were exploding. And this was not possible to cope with that anymore. The real game change that occurred 5 years ago. The 3rd of October 2020 was the first time that these kind of barriers were raised up, separating the sea from the lagoon only for the duration of the storm. But in this way, we were able to avoid the flooding. And since then, the operation of MOSE occurred 110 times, quite a lot. You may imagine what the life in Venice would have been without this kind of game changer of this tool. Fantastic tools, 4 mobile barriers which are placed at the mouth of the laguna, 78 floodgates for 1.6 kilometers of iron barrier, which raise up only when needed. So they are not fixed. The lagoon needs to breathe with the tide. And so we suspend this breathing only for 100 times, but only for less than 2% of the hour totally spent. So presently, the breath was suspended, but not, we can breathe again. So the MOSE, the game changer, you see, is able to maintain a difference of up to 2 meters from the laguna and the sea, avoiding that peak in red is the water level in the sea, in blue the water level in the lagoon. You may see that even a very high peak was avoided. This would have been the worst one, more than 2 meters in the sea, less than 80 centimeters in the lagoon. And I would say now we do not have time to show all the Moses system, what does it mean. Believe me in saying that there are many of, in some sense, this kind of technological barrier made available. It was the enabler of many nature-based solutions. You may notice them when we go tomorrow around the lagoon. You will see the salt marshes are protected. Some of them are rebuilt because the erosion, now we are in opposite sense than 500 years ago. So we are, the threat of the lagoon is the erosion. And we are defending this very important habitat for having both nature and culture conservation. For the culture, we had also in the city, other kind of adapting measures for sea level rise. Sorry, before this, I would like to show this because it is the glass barrier. If you go to San Marco, you will see that in the front of the basilica, there is a thick but very transparent glass, a special one, barrier which avoid even the lower high tide can go inside. For some years, then we are impermeabilizing the whole area of San Marco. In the meanwhile, this barrier protects, in any case, San Marco Basilica, because we do not want anymore to have salt water against the marble. So we started to restore inside and outside the basilica. This is just an example. This is a pavement mosaic made in the year 1200, very beautiful and very damaged, unfortunately, during the flooding of 2019. And now, as you may see from the picture, it has been fully restored. And so this is the idea. What we had here, we experience because we are more sensible, is a city built in the water, close to the water, and with a lot of experience of adaptation. Our approach, maybe that in coastal protection there is not one size which fits all. However, the approaches are being experimented. We are in contact through I am from the science sector, so for us it's easy to connect with the many other colleagues around the world. So Venice is the study site, and will be in the future also the production of experiences for adaptation to the sea level rise that will occur globally. It's not a problem only of Venice, maybe we had it before. Our experience can be useful to be transferred in any other place of the world, because the approach, the culture that we developed is transferable, the scientific solution, the technological solution are transferable, and so we can demonstrate that Venice is really the most ancient city of the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. We're going to talk actually later in the conference about rising sea levels, so I'm sure we will go back to all of that. Just very quickly, we have another speaker on this topic. Let's welcome Damiano De Marchi, who represents VSF, that's the Venice Sustainability Foundation. Their objective is to create an integrated model, environmental, economic, social, bringing all of that together, sustainable development for the entire city. It's a massive job. 5 minutes you've got, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much for having us. I will take even less than 5 minutes. I know that schedule is very tight, and she was very, very strict on that. And my name is Damiano De Marchi. I know the very nice pronunciation of this name around the world. So, Venice Sustainability Foundation and ICOMIA World Marinas Conference this year share the vision of Venice as a living laboratory, which is our aim as a foundation, brand new foundation. We are 3 years old, and Venice as a place for analyzing and exchanging local and international best practices. Our aim is to envision innovative solutions and find ways to find solutions for the challenges that lie ahead. And for us, sustainability is not a buzzword. It's not just a word that we put in our name, but it's a way to act in practical terms. We are giving you 3 examples very shortly. The first is, that's why we are included ICOMIA as a collateral event at Sustainability Biennale, because in the coming years, as Engineer Campostrini just said, coastal territory, in particular, I would say, will need to build new development paths that balance environmental protection with economic and community vitality. As we saw before, the Moses system is something that is saving the city, but the rising sea level will require more frequent use of the mobile barriers, and this will affect the local economy. Let's think about the ports. How to have a port, a living port, a functioning port with those barriers that are going up and down more frequently. And the broader theme of this thing and all the other things will be part of an international conference that we are handling here in Venice the 17th of September with the United Nations, and we are all invited. Second example is related to tourism. I'm an expert of tourism at the Venice Sustainability Foundation and also at the University of Venice. We are in Venice, one of the capital of tourism, maybe the universal paradigm of over-tourism. Veneto region is the first tourist destination of Italy, more 73 million overnight, and it's just the, let's say, official numbers. We are estimated that over 30 million people are coming to visit Venice every year. But sustainable tourism is not related just to people. It's related to living and visiting in a living city. And Venice, in a data-driven approach, is a living city. And it's something that we are talking about in an international workshop that we are going to have here in Venice, the 5th of December. And third example, and last example, just to stay in touch with the 5 minutes, the foundation is conducting nowadays a study on sustainable boating within some of our members that maybe you saw here, at the Veneto region, PWC, ATC, Ali Laguna, San Lorenzo Yacht, and others. And we are mapping emissions from the public and private vessels in the city canals. You saw many of them, and maybe the sustainability is a wannabe thing. So we are working on that, and our goal is to identify the most suitable alternative technologies for the Venetian context, for the lagoon, and of course, this can be also a way to better understand how our solution can be transferred to other realities. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are here all the days to keep in touch.
You're a legend, thank you.